it is my great pleasure. Are we ready? We're recording. It's my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, and that is the fabulous Deborah Ann Davis, who is an award-winning author, speaker, and coach with over 3 decades of experience in middle school and high school education. As a teacher, Deborah has helped countless families replace the pain typical of the tween and teenage years by fostering positive and healthy relationships despite adolescent angst. She's the founder of the Awesome Mom Tribe, and she's a mom herself. She now applies her experience in education to coaching parenting skills. She is armed with a sense of humor, a BS in education from the University of Massachusetts, and a Master's of Education in Supervision from Emory University. She provides guidance and encouragement for moms to help them foster positive and healthy relationships with their families. Deborah has a new book out this year called How to Keep Your Daughter from Slamming the Doors. And I highly recommend this book. It's part story, part manual, 100% wit and wisdom. It's a truly delightful book. Each chapter has got sidebars with little tidbits and concrete exercises to help you increase your skill level with your teen. As I read the book, I wasn't 100% sure why we were limiting ourselves to daughters. I think most of
it definitely ties in with sons also. It's all about relationships.
I kept thinking, like, I think this would work the boys too. So I highly recommend her book. I would get it. You know, we said in the beginning that kids don't come with a manual. Well, this is a pretty good manual for teenagers. Deborah's other books include How to Get Your Happy On, and she has a Love Affairs series, which someday we're going to have to chat about. Welcome, Deborah Ann Davis.
All righty. Okay, so like Elizabeth said, I am Deborah Ann Davis, and I'm a parenting coach, and I'm the author of my wonderful book. Oh, come on. Hang on. I'm having a conversation with my computer right now. There we go. How to Keep Your Daughter from Slamming the Door, which has helped so many people, and you can basically get it anywhere that you buy books. I do want to say that I was so pleased to see how much overlap there is between Elizabeth's conversation about middle schoolers and my conversation about easing kids into the high school world. So without further ado, I'm going to discuss the transition to high school. But this is also a transition to a new school if you're moving, or it's also a transition into a new grade. And I'm going to cover keeping perspective, using report cards as tools, which people don't necessarily do, and the transition process to a high school or a new school or a new grade. And also using the summer for preparation for the coming school year and key conversations you can have with your kids so they can be on board with that instead of fighting you the whole way. Okay, so let's talk about perspective first. Here's the thing. Children don't understand report cards and grades. And I'm talking about the whole gambit. The thing is that when they get bad grades, they'll say, the teacher doesn't like me. And when they get good grades, they think the teacher does like them. And that's 100% in elementary school. And as they get older, they start to take more responsibility for their own actions. But still, in middle school and high school, a lot of times when a kid gets an A, they don't really know why they got that A. They just know that they put their head down and they did their work and they got an A. So they feel good about it, but they're not really sure how they got there. So my idea is that instead of doing things the way we do it now, which ties report card grades and grades on assignments to kids' self-esteem, which is unfortunate, that we look at it differently so that we can look at their progress and therefore fuel their self-worth, which is a permanent thing. Instead of the flighty self-esteem, it goes up with this and down with that. So what happens is kids will get a bad grade and then they'll feel badly about themselves. And parents will look at the kids' grades and feel badly as a parent. I should have done more. I should have been there more. And so we're not just ruining the self-esteem of the kids, we're also messing with the self-esteem of the parents. So I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to share a little trick with you that you can use when you get to the right now, when you're looking at the grades where you are right now in this school year that we're in April, and then you can look at it again in June. And my trick is going to help you use a tool so that you can have a positive impact on grades. And then that way it will give a positive impact on the way you feel about your kids' grades, no matter what they are. And then in turn, you'll be able to use that to create a positive impact on the way your kids feel about grades, because it's all about modeling. If you go down that route, your kids will follow suit. All right, so this is a book called The Inner Game of Tennis. And the first time I read this book, it was, it's by W. Timothy Galloway. And the first time I read this book, it was like a life changer for me. This made such a huge difference in the philosophy of life. So I'm going to talk about a tennis game, but really what I'm talking about is a metaphor for life. So in a tennis game, you have three people. You have player one and player A and player B. They're competing against each other. And then you have the ref. So player A hits the ball and it bounces off the net and goes out of bounds. And player A gets so upset, throws a racket on the ground, has a hissy fit, says, "Oh, you stupid idiot, how could you do that? That was such an easy shot." And they do all this negative self-talk and they flounce off. And meanwhile, player B's on the other side going, "Woohoo, I am such a great tennis player," even though obviously they did nothing in that incident. They just stood there and watched the ball go out of bounds. So what you've got are two people who have their emotions jerked around by external situations. The third person, the ref, looks at the situation and says calmly and quietly, "The ball is out." They're being objective and unemotional in the situation. So in life, what I'm saying is, instead of being player A who gets down on themselves or player B who gets joyful because something is going on around them, look at situations like you're the ref. Be objective and analytical, and then use that to figure out solutions instead of making people feel badly in your wake or making them feel exuberant in your presence and then down when you're gone. So this bears repeating, because the thing is that our kids' emotions get tied to their grades and not their view of their progress. And what we want them to do is to look at their progress. So we don't want it to be where they have good grades and then they're happy like player B, or they get bad grades and they're sad like player A. We want them to say, okay, why did I get that grade? How do I make it different the next time? We also want the parents to be doing that, because they are going to be modeling this behavior. And this is how you use report cards as tools, not as a reckoning. So when you get your report card, if you use it as a tool and you analyze what still needs work and what the kids are strong on, then you're able to let them compare how they were before to where they are now, which is looking at their progress. And all progress is progress. I don't care how small it is. Progress is forward, and it is progress, and it is worth noting. Like what Elizabeth was saying, you may not notice what they got on that lab report, what they wrote in the lab report. You just see the grade, but you see their progress as they're putting away the groceries in the kitchen. So I'm saying, let's get that kind of focus on the grades. The most productive way to use a report card is to look at what they're doing already. And you look at their best class first. And you say, what's working within that system and what's not working within that system. And the things that they mastered, why did they master them? How did they master them? Because you can tell them, you can apply that to this other stuff that's going on. So you ask them these kinds of questions. And I don't mean you get a clipboard and you sit down with them and you say, let's discuss this. You do it when you're doing an activity like Elizabeth was saying, like not vacuuming because you can't talk, but dusting the living room or cooking dinner or something like that. And you say, what were your strengths in that class? Because you're talking about the best class that they're having, whether it's their favorite class or their best grade. Then when you pull out a piece of paper and you say, you know what, let's make a list of what you're saying, and you write down the things that they were saying they were strong in, that your child is seeing. This is from your child's point of view. And then you say, you know, as an adult, I see a bigger picture. Let me share with you the strengths that I see in you too. And you add those onto the list. And then you say, let's look at this list. How do you think you could apply those strengths that you have in these other classes? And then let the kid talk to you about that. Don't offer anything. Don't pass judgment. Don't say, oh, that won't work. Don't say, oh, that will work. Say things that are non-committal, like, that's interesting. And that will encourage them to keep talking, because the more they talk, the more you will know who they are. So you say, what would you change if you could go back in time in that class that you did really well with? Is there anything that you would change or anything you would do a second time because you really like it? And what could you do that you liked in that class in this other class? What would you change in this other class? What would make a difference? These situations create a moment in time where you and your child are chatting in a non-judgmental way, in a non-accusatory way, in a way where you're going, oh, I wish things were better. Just in a fact-finding, referee's objective point of view. So what was going on? Let's look at this. And when you listen, you will learn, because your child will tell you things that you're not looking for. They will tell you the things that are important to them that they notice. And on a different time, you can go in and share the things that you would like to share. But this is their time, because if you just listen, then they will feel valued, and they will remember that, and they'll be more likely to come to you when they have problem. Now let's talk about final exams. So this is about in June at the end of the school year, because once final exams are done, there's nothing you can do to undo them. Once they're in the middle of the study period before the final exams, they now know whether they'd set aside enough time and if they didn't. And there's nothing they can do about it. So I wouldn't suggest talking to them right after school gets out, because they're going to be completely stressed and done with it, because, you know, a week of exams, everybody gets burned out. So what I would say to them is I'd pick a time during the summer, like early July, and sometime where things are casual, and just bring it up. My favorite casual chat was with my daughter when we were sitting on the front stoop painting our toenails. So we'd be side to side and leaning over our feet, not looking at each other. And I'd ask her these questions. So looking back on final exams, what did you do right? Which exam do you feel that you were the best prepared for? So why do you think that one? How was your energy for the first exam compared to your energy for the last exam? Notice that none of these questions address the grades. None of these questions address the subjects specifically. These are all about the kid looking back on the situation and now being the ref and not feeling emotionally A or B, and saying, let's analyze this. What changes would you make if you could go back in time? How do you want to schedule studying for next year? I mean, did this study schedule that you had work for you, or did it create stress? How would you like to change it? And you know how you felt when school got out this year. How do you want to feel next year when summer starts? Just listen. Don't contribute to these conversations. This is them unloading. They had this packed in all during June when they were stressing about exams and taking the exams and then feeling the repercussions of the results from the exams. So now they have stepped away from it and the emotion level is low. So just listen. And if you got a snarky situation with your child and you have a hard time bringing up things without them immediately going to defense, I would say use the side door. Don't talk about them. Talk about their best friend. Which exam was the hardest one for your best friend? Did your best friend feel prepared? Why? Why not? How is your best friend's energy for the first exam compared to the last exam? These questions take the focus off of your child and will allow them to talk about the exam sessions without it reflecting on themselves. But you'll hear it in their voice. Well, they should have studied more, or they shouldn't just given up because it couldn't have been, they weren't going to pass it anyway. Or they did a great job. So I wish I had done something like that. So you will learn what's going on with your kids going through the side door. Now that that's all over, what would your best friend change? How could your best friend and you help each other for next year for the studying sessions before the exams? And how do you think that the grades affect the way your best friend feels going into this summer? Those are the same things that you're asking about themselves, but you're just going in the side door. Just listen. Say, that's interesting. Oh, really? No kidding. Just listen. Don't tell them the way it should be, or your opinion, or what it was like when you were a kid. Because if they want to know what it was like when you were a kid, they'll ask you. Save that information for another conversation. With this conversation with a kid who gets defensive, just listen and let them talk, let them feel good about expressing themselves, and then sail off into the other room, leaving them in the wake of good feelings. Now, your kids are going to get overwhelmed with their academics at some point. I don't care if they are with tutors or if they are in AP, but they are going to get overwhelmed at some point or other. So that's when you need to share with them the power of yet, or but yet, explain it to them now so you can remind them when they get to these points. This is an incredibly powerful tool. The thing is with talking about yet, you're saying that you're not there yet, but you can get there. It's encouraging. I mean, let's be real, because no one looks at a toddler and says, you get a B+ in walking because you're not exactly at an A yet. No one says to a little kid, you get a C- because you're still using the training wheels on your bike. Everybody understands that these are learning processes and that any progress you're making is taking you towards your goal. So my question is, why aren't we doing that with academics? Why aren't we saying to the kids, yeah, I see on your report card that you didn't master long division. Well, guess what? We're going to figure out a way for you to get long division under your belt this summer, because you haven't learned it yet, but you will learn it. I mean, look at you. You learned how to walk. You learned how to talk. You're going to learn how to do this too. And I'm going to find a better way than what we used at school this year for you to figure this out. It is a powerful tool. I mean, think about it. If I say to you, parents, you don't know how to take care of your kids, what does that feel like? That makes you feel uncomfortable. But if I said, you don't know how to take care of your kids yet, that's different. That is a path to hope. That is a path to progress and development. That is you saying, I have a way to get to what I want. That is the power of yet, and that needs to be instilled in your household. Alrighty, next topic. Now that I've given you some perspective, let's talk about these transitions. They're going to high school or to any grade. Your kids need to have some goals. And again, I don't mean sit down with a clipboard and say, okay, what are your goals for the coming year? No, I'm talking about having these calm and sharing and memory building moments together where you're having discussions. One day when you're going for a walk, what do you think will make next school year perfect? What do you think next school year is going to be like? What do you think we should do to get ready for next school year? And again, you're going to listen to them when they say, which class do you think will be your best one next year? Do you think any of your classes are going to give you any trouble? How do you want to feel next summer when the summer begins in terms of looking back on the school year that's coming up? In this conversation, you will hear your kids' goals. You can write them down, you can share them with them, you can handle that any way you want, but they will have revealed what they want for themselves. And I tell you, in the beginning of the school year, every single person starts school the same way. The parents, the students, the teachers, the administrators, the paraprofessionals, the custodians, everybody involved in the school wants this school year to be better than the last one. Everybody. And that means the parents need some goals. So I'm giving you some, and you can add your own goals to these. And you'll see some overlap here with what Elizabeth was talking about. First of all, we need to have the kids enjoy school again. We got to find a way to do that. And I've got a few ideas. And second of all, if your kids are going to, if you're going to direct how your kids are going to enjoy some school, then you need to learn about your kids' learning style. So you can go back to the first of this series, this Talk About Teens series, where I did the session on maximizing your child's learning styles. And if you follow that, you will learn how to apply their learning styles. Also, you can go to my website, deborahanndavis.com, and get the learning styles inventory there that you can use. And like Elizabeth said, go get this year's curriculum. Every school system has it. I would go online first just because it would be quicker if it's there. And if it's not there, then contact the office and ask them, how do I get a copy of the curriculum? And then get a copy of next year's curriculum. You're going to use this year's curriculum to figure out the holes in your child's progress, so that those are the things you can play with during the summer. And you're going to use next year's curriculum so they can go in strong. Because like Elizabeth said, math and reading over the summer will create confident students in the fall. So let's go at it. The thing you need to do is search for fun ways to teach a subject. You just plug it in. Fun ways to teach algebra, fun ways to teach civics, fun ways to teach the states. Whatever the subject is, put it in there and you'll come up with websites, because fun has to be first. It's summertime and they don't need to know that you're on a mission to make sure that they're ready for school. This should feel like fun. There's a great website called Brain Pop, and you can see on the bottom there, they do science and social studies and English and math, and they do it in really interesting ways. They give you, I'm a science geek, so I went for the science one. So this is Carbon Cycle. They give you a little video where they teach it to you, and then they have all these tools in the green boxes there where you can do the create your own movie and take a quiz and make maps and do all these things that reinforce learning. And then they have them for the other subjects. I just put English in here, so because everyone has to do a 5-paragraph essay before they get out of high school. So if you start your kids on this and you teach them how to do transitions and all those other things, then they will be stronger when they get to school. Now, I want to talk about the importance of reading. You could create a little reading club made up of your family where the entire family reads a book. And there are summer lists that all the schools provide. And I would say, this is my personal opinion, I'm not speaking for the other people here, but I find a lot of the book choices that are on the high school and middle school reading lists have a lot to do with angst and issues and problems. And after the year that we've just had, where the kids have been living that stuff themselves, they may not be ready to look at those kinds of books for preparation for school. So I say, skip them, save them for the end after you've built them up a little bit and made them all happy and excited, and then introduce those. So this is how we turned my daughter into a reader. We picked a door in our room and in our house, and we put a piece of notebook paper on it. And I said to her, every time you read a book, I will put the title on this. And every time you finish a page, a page on the notebook paper, then I will give you a treat. Like we would go to a bookstore, or we'd go to a library or something where she could look at other books and add to her list. So she did one page after another, and through the summer, she ended up doing so much we had to move them over and start another list. But I accepted everything. I accepted comic books. I accepted little skinny, primer readers. I accepted books that were too hard for her to read and books that were way below her reading level, because the objective is to get them interested. to let them remember that if you open up the pages, there is a wonderful story in there. There's an adventure, there is knowledge, and that's what you're trying to do. So you're not qualifying, oh, well, that's a little kid's book. You say any book and you get the treat, as long as you get the whole page filled out. However, we did end up with getting too much of a good thing, because her third grade teacher called me in for a parent-teacher conference and said, I haven't ever had to do this before, but your daughter is reading too much. The class got up to go to gym the other day and lined up in the back of the room, and she was there with her head in the book and didn't even know that anybody around her had moved. So obviously she's not paying attention in class. So I told the teacher to tell my daughter that she could only read if she was sitting on the carpet area after she'd finished her work. And then I reinforced that when she came home. 3 weeks later, her teacher called me back in and said, we still have the same situation. So we opened up her desk, and she literally had a dozen books laid open like this that she'd shoved in there when she'd gotten caught reading. And so we had to talk to her about, we were going to have do some reinforcement here. If you're going to keep doing this in the classroom, you need to read when you're supposed to be reading and do schoolwork when you're done. So everything in moderation. This is a website, readbrightly.com. And the reason why I like this one is because it isn't just books, it's everything. It's articles, etc., and reading games. But you notice if you look at the peach tags up there, that they have one for all different reading levels. So if you've got kids who are elementary school and middle school and high school, you can go here for one resource. So this is teenagers, this is tweens, this is young beginner readers, and it's all in one place. Now, this is one of my favorite solutions for creating a reader. If you've got someone old enough to read these level books, you find a book that has been turned into a movie that your child has not seen the movie and they have not read the book. And you get that book and you read half of it and they read half of it. And then you get the movie and you watch half of the movie and then you stop it. And then you have a book discussion. Did that character look the way you envisioned that person in the book? Who did you think would be a better actor in that character's part? Would you have done what that character did? And you have those kinds of discussions. And then you go back and you and your kids read the second half of the book, and then you go back and watch the second half of the movie. All of these books are movies. And just to say, down at the bottom, Hidden Figures, that book is an elementary school book. So you can start this at any level. And Hidden Figures is a great movie. Now, about math. Yes, you can get them strong in reading, but you have to get them strong in math. And there are math games, and I agree with what Elizabeth said, because I am not a fan of screen time, especially with the huge focus we've had with putting the kids on there. But I will be addressing that later. But if you're going to play math games, you find them like mathplay.com. You pick your subject, multiplication tables, Algebra 1, and they will give you the game, and you play the game based on math questions having to do with that. And then again, you saw this in Elizabeth's presentation, khanacademy.org. They have so much stuff, and they have it for all subjects, and it's free. And I used to do this when I was teaching science. I used to use them. You see on the left-hand side, this math getting ready courses, they have it for 3rd grade and 4th grade and 5th grade and all the way down to pre-calculus. So you go on here, you pick the subject that your child's going to have next year, and you mess around with it with them. And you can say, go do this on your own and then show it to me, or you can do it with them and take turns trying it. So either way, it helps to create memories if you're doing it with them. The thing I really...
Deborah, I'm going to interject. You told me to give you a time warning.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to start talking really fast. Okay, the reason why I like Khan Academy is because they have unit tests, and that lets you use a test as a tool. So you have a pre-test that you take before you've even tried it, so you can see what you already know and what you have to still learn, the power of yet. And then you take the lesson and then you do the post-test, and it shows you what you have learned. And it reinforces for the kids and for the parents that what they've learned, what they haven't learned yet. Okay, so this is the part I'm going to blow through fast. This is about next year's transition. Keep your rules the same. I can't tell you how many freshmen have come into the high school only to crash because the parents said they were so mature and grown over the summer, and now I'm going to give them some extra freedom as they go into high school. That's the wrong time to do it. Keep the rules the same when they start high school. After first report card comes out and they are strong, then you say, okay, I'm going to lighten up the rules a little bit because you obviously are handling this. Otherwise, they crash and burn and you end up tightening up the rules and they feel punished. The second thing is about curfew. Whatever time they were going to bed last year, that's what time they need to go to bed this coming year. And then after, when the report card comes out, you can change things. All right, the negotiables, and Elizabeth also mentioned this. You pick the things that you can negotiate and do research for the things that they're coming up with that you don't like. You say, go look up how this benefits you, and then you show me your sources. And I'll go look up why I don't like it, and I'll show you my sources. So it helps postpone things because they might want to rearrange the room, and you might be all right with that. That you can negotiate bedtimes and time to hang out with their friends, and not whether they do the chores, but when they do the chores. And then you reinforce the non-negotiables, the things that you're drawing the line on during calm times when things are good between you. And these are the non-negotiables, and these are very important. Do not compromise on education, health, or safety. For health, you have to keep their immune system strong because that is the best way to fight the COVID disease and anything else. And that means stay away from alcohol, drugs, and cigarettes. And I'm going fast here, but I do want to pause on the cell phones because you want to take the cell phones out of their rooms at night because they radiate. They ping for signals every couple of minutes. And you want to shut off the Wi-Fi on them and on the computers and everything at night, and keep all the electronics out of the bedroom because that will give them better sleep, which will help boost their immune system, and it will lower their stress. You need to stay on top of their education. And in terms of safety, driving. Sophomores and freshmen have in front of them the idea that they're going to be driving soon, and you need to be clear about what you're going to allow and not allow ahead of time. As for parties, that's a hard no. You know there's going to be drugs there. You know there's going to be alcohol there. And what are you going to say to them? You can go to the party and everyone's going to be drinking, but you can't drink, and don't feel bad if they make fun of you. And you can't get high, so don't feel bad if they make fun of you. And that cute guy you wanted to talk to who's going to be inebriated, have a good time getting to know him better. So I just don't see the sense in putting drugs, alcohol, lack of supervision all together in a room with unformed prefrontal cortexes, frontal lobes, because they don't develop the logic and reasoning session until years after college, which is a cosmic joke. All right. And then the inevitables, they are going to be coming up. And the answer to the questions with the inevitables is, what does that mean to you? And let them tell you what it means to them, because there are going to be crushes. There are going to be relationships that people are interested in that they don't want interested in, and people they want interested in them who are not interested in them. That is going to happen. And you want to say, what does that mean to you? And they will share with that. There are going to be times where they feel included, and times where they don't feel included, and times where they feel sad. And instead of giving advice, say to them, how would you like me to respond? What role would you like me to play here? That has worked wonders with me and my daughter. And don't forget, they are going to get distracted by the internet. They are going to get overwhelmed. And many kids are going to be struggling with their body image. And you're not going to know that unless you have those previous conversations, so they will feel free to come and talk to you about these things. So start talking now with them, because it will lay the groundwork for when they need you. And you can use the books to do that. What would you do if you were in that character's place? What do you think about the decision that character made? And that will help them talk about the things going on in their life. How do you think your best friend would react to that character? Now, last thing, if you're going to a new school, get into the school before school starts. Walk the halls. Find the kids' lockers. And if you don't know the locker exactly, then find where the freshman lockers will be. And if you can, practice the combination. Find the office, the guidance department, the gym, the entrances and exits, the subject wings. Science is over here, math is over there. And of course, the bathrooms, even though they'll probably never use them. And if the office has a copy of last year's yearbook, thumb through it so you can see what the kids were wearing last year. And then save the date. Find out when the parent-teacher conferences are, put it on your calendar, and make sure nothing gets scheduled during that time. Send an email to their teachers introducing yourselves and saying, is there any way I can support your classroom experience? Let me know. Okay, and the early what if discussions. What if the school is normal next year? What if school is hybrid next year? What if it switches up? What if that jerk is in your class? What are your 5 main strengths? Bring those things back into focus again. What if your teacher wants you to do a group project? That's actually something you can prepare for, because you can say, what are you strong at? And then you say, when you get the group project, you say, tell them that that's what you want to do. And then you have your response to the what if discussions. You inspire, you say, neither of us know exactly how next year is going to go, but I got your back. You and I are a team. We've got this. No worries. And if there's something I don't know how to solve, I will find somebody who does. So you don't need to worry. We've got this. You're going to be fine. And the next thing you know, you'll be heading back to school. Thank you very much for your time. And by signing up for this, you will be getting a copy of the newsletter Merry Meddling that comes out monthly. And you can contact me at info@deborahanndavis.com. And all this stuff will be sent to you later. And to say thank you for being here, you get a free parenting coaching session. Just contact me through my website or email. And thank you.